I just tell them my history with makeup. I don't consider myself a pro, but I have a bit of history with makeup. I used to be a model, and okay, he said tell that story. So I remember I was 11 years old. We were living in Carson, California, and we were in the grocery store, and this not older, he was probably in his 30s, this brother came up to my mother and told her that his name was Fabian. I remember Fabian. I wonder if he's still around, Fabian. Anyway, he told her that he had a charm school and that he was training models in etiquette and poise and walking the runway and carrying themselves as powerful women, and he wanted to train me. He asked my mother if she would bring me to his school, and she said, do you want to do that? I was like, yeah. So we went down to Century Boulevard in Inglewood, and I became a model, and I loved it. And every weekend I'd be in there learning to walk, learning how to carry myself, learning poise, learning how to hold my body as a woman. Anyway, so he took me in, and every weekend we would drive all the way out there to Century Boulevard, and then from there we started doing shows, and we were doing shows all over LA. And so we would do breakfast shows. I remember I never knew that people would meet at some hotel in some room, and they would have a beautiful breakfast, and then they would bring models in to show whatever designer clothings were going to be displayed. And he had a whole network of all these fashion designers, and so they would have us fit for their clothes, and we would walk in, and they would sell their clothes while we were at the little shows. And I did that from the time I was 11 until I understood the business and started doing things on my own. I did hair shows. I remember we did a lot of, and I'm gonna date myself, and most of y'all probably won't even know what I'm talking about. But back during USA for Africa, y'all remember that? Ooh, that's significant today. Anyway, I did hair shows. My mother had her own. She was a hairstylist at the time, and so I was always doing hair shows, and so I learned how to put on makeup, and not to put on like that heavy stage makeup. Like, you have to wear heavy makeup when you're on stage, but you don't have to wear it like that when you just walking the streets. But a lot of women do. And I learned that makeup is supposed to accentuate. There's a reason why there are shadows on your face that you just highlight, and so you don't need to overdo it. I mean, there's times when overdoing it works, but just my style. I'm not trying to be all out there. I like glam, and I will play with some color, but I'm not into that. But anyway, so I learned how to do my own makeup, and then I would do makeup for the models in many of my shows. And I did shows, and I coordinated shows, and I trained models. And I remember, goodness, I was even telling my girls, I used to have models, I would coordinate whole shows and train, like we had 30, 40 models, and I'd be like 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'd have them walking up and down and twirling and twisting and partnering up. And I remember going and finding people that would let us use their clothes for different shows. And I mean, I did the full-on production for some years, pageants and all kinds of stuff. So I have had my share of experience on stage and behind the scenes and all of that. So I'm gonna have to bump this up a little bit. That's where my experience comes from. And I shared in another video that I also was one of the first Black models for Nordstrom. And I miss my Nordstrom. Ooh, that was the best job I had. Let me just say this. And they have breakfast shows all the time. And so I would have stylists. I'd have 2 people, runners is what they called them. And they would pick the outfits from Nordstrom. So just imagine, they would go and pick whatever the core pieces were, and then they would have all the accessories. So if it was a nice top and a nice pair of pants, they would have the belt, they would have the jacket, they would have the shoes, I'd have the socks, the pantyhose, the necklaces, the undergarments, everything, the hat, the sunglasses, whatever pieces that they could throw on to layer. They would have all that laid out as one outfit in my dressing room. And then they'd have another outfit in my dressing room. And then they have like 4 or 5 outfits in the dressing room. And then I'd have runners that once we tried it on, if this one didn't work, didn't look right, didn't fit, we want to try something else, they would go and get it right, so that I would have all my quick changes ready. And you talk about everything. I mean, down to the panties, all of it. Everything you need, because they're selling it all. And of course, then we would be out there mannequin posed and, you know, doing our thing. That's not how I would do it anyway. We'd be out there posing and then the people would be walking through the store. Well, also they would do the breakfast shows, so we would actually walk through the breakfast shows. And yeah, at 6 o'clock they'd have a whole house full of people, and they'd be serving all this amazing food, all this caviar and the salmon spinners and all of the stuff. It would just be phenomenal. I didn't know they were rocking like that early in the morning at Nordstrom, but they did, and it was for their VIPs. So we would walk and model during those shows, and then we would do the mannequin sets throughout the day, and so we'd be up on the podiums throughout the store. You know how they put the mannequins up on the little risers? We'd be on the risers, and we'd have everything, and we would just be standing there. And it's a lot to stand there in that one position. You can't scratch your nose, you can't scratch nothing. You can't twitch, nothing. And then you would hear ding, and then we would change positions. And then everybody would be like, did you see that? Did they just move? That's a real person. Mm-hmm. That was fun. So did that for Nordstrom for a while, and then moved to Atlanta back in 1992. Yeah, so that was in the 80s. My friends used to say, you were Tyra before there was a Tyra. And I was. Well, I have to tell you guys about the pageant that I was in. Oh, do we tell that story right now? Okay. So I did a pageant. First of all, Miss Black LA. And there was another pageant that Keenan Ivory Wayans was, he was one of our coaches. And him and Nina Blanchard, who had a modeling agency here in LA and in New York, she broke my little heart. She just, oh, that's such a cutthroat industry, y'all. Don't put your kids in that. Don't put your kids in that. I lived it, and I watched those kids, those little girls suffer, and they change their bodies, and they turn themselves inside out, trying to be accepted and trying to be received as themselves, and they find out that they're not acceptable as themselves for whatever jobs they're trying to get, and so they turn themselves inside out trying to be something they're not, and get rejected for that too, and then they're lost. That's why all those child stars suffer. Don't do that to your kids. Hollywood is a land of make-believe, for real. Don't do that to your kids. And we're programmed even to idolize stars, and those folks are struggling. You don't even know. It's make-believe. Anyway, so for this pageant, we had to have a talent, you know. And so I could hold a note in a brown paper bag. I was a part of a singing group for a while. I'll tell you that story another time. But so I had a vocal coach. Y'all remember Luther Vandross? Luther Vandross is one of his background singers was my vocal coach. And he helped me. I would go out to Hollywood to his house, and we would practice. And oh, I needed to remember this. So I gotta find my eyebrows. What are we doing about the eyebrows, family? My chocolate eyebrow. So this is a cream. I got it. I didn't mean to get this, but I got it. I didn't know it was cream. I thought it was powder. So we're gonna see if I jack up my eyebrows, but then we'll see. Anyway, so I would go out and we practice, and my song that I selected was Stormy Weather. And oh my goodness, I had this shimmer white, like one of those flapper dresses from back in the 20s. It was pretty. And Esther Roll, y'all remember Mama from Good Times? She was one of the judges, and she was late. Anyway, I'm still a little salty. Anyway, so I participated in this pageant, and I sang my song, and I was one of the first people to perform. And as I said, some of the judges were late, so they didn't even see my performance, which I was kind of salty about. But anyway, after the performance, this lady walked up to me, and I was in the back, and I was talking to Miss Miss Hawaii at the time, and she was a Black woman. And then my vocal coach was back there, and they were mad because of the way that everything had unfolded, and the judges weren't there for all the performances. It was just raggedy. Anyway, so they were hot, and they were talking to me, and this lady walked up to me. And this is one of the big regrets of my life, honestly. I punked out, was afraid. But this lady came up to me while I was talking to them, and she said that she saw my performance and that I was the final member of this group that Mr. Jermaine Jackson was putting together. I was like, wait, what? She said all she needed me to do was record myself singing that song, send her that tape, and we had cassettes back then. Send her the tape, and she would let me know the next steps, but I was the final member. And that he was putting together this group, and there were several women already in the group, and they just needed the final member, and that was me. And I was like, wait, what? You said who? She scared the bejitless out of me. I don't even want to say that other word. I was so like, what in the world? Please work. So I didn't do it. I was so like freaked out because I didn't feel like I was good enough, and we talk ourselves out of stuff, right? And I didn't do it. Y'all know what group it was? Who knows what group it was? Put it in the comments. Looking back, I'm actually glad that I didn't, because they did a reality show later, and some of that was a hot mess, and I don't know what the father was trying to do, but I sabotaged that. I sabotaged it. Who knows the name of the group? It was a singing group in the 90s. I'm gonna tell you. I just want to know, who knows? Singing group that Jermaine Jackson put together of young Black women, Michael Jackson's big brother. The name of the group was Brownstone. I was supposed to be the final member. Y'all believe that? And I blew it. I blew it. We sabotage ourselves, right? But looking back, I don't know where any of those ladies are. I pray that they're successful in whatever it is that they're doing. We don't hear about them. So that probably would have been me too. But we live and learn. We live and learn. So this cream isn't all bad. I prefer a powder myself, but I remember when we were preparing for the pageant. Y'all remember Soul Train? Ooh, I'm dating myself. Y'all remember Soul Train? You remember the sister with the long black ponytail, Darcel? She was the head of the pageant. She was the one who coordinated everything. And she said in the very beginning, she needed somebody to be Josephine Baker. And she took me and a bunch of other ladies back to the back because she was going to choose between us. I can't believe I'm showing you this. Anyway, she was going to choose between us who was going to play that role in the opening number, because we had an opening number. It was a real pageant. And so when she said that, I was like, oh, she's here. And I walked in front of her. I'm your Josephine Baker. And she was like, it's settled. That's her. And the girls were so mad at me. They were so mad at me. Oh, they were mad at me. They were so mad at me that they pulled me into the utility closet and said to me, what are you doing for the talent? And I said, I'm singing a song. Well, sing. We want to hear you sing. I was like, no. It ain't going down like that. But, oh my goodness. Such great stories. Thank y'all for just listening. I needed to reminisce a bit. It's funny, when you go through stuff in life, you forget. I forgot anyway. But I have y'all helping me remember. Those were the days. What a life I had. What hope and what promise. And then I ended up in the twilight zone. The enemy knew what he was trying to do in me. So what we think? Did the eyebrows work? You ready for your gift? It's coming. Oh, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it. I'm gonna love it too. All right. So I am going to go and put some clothes on and then get myself together and get ready for your gift. All right? Because the clock is ticking. Okay. Let's do this. All my love.